to order. I'm glad everybody is here. We weren't so sure how many would come when it's on this beautiful day like today, but this is great. I want to welcome everybody. I think I know everybody here. I've at least seen you before. I want to go, particularly this week, I want to go through what we stand for, and let's think about it for a minute. Our mission is empowering voters and defending democracy. And I think it's on everybody's mind right now. So I really feel like we need to talk. Our vision is a democracy where everyone has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. And we're going to be talking about things like voter turnout, how things went. We believe in the power of women and men to create a more perfect democracy. And I think that is incredibly important right now. We're committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion, even though not everyone is. So, we're very nonpartisan. We will not talk about individuals. We talk about positions. I was saying sometimes before the meeting we do get more partisan, but during the meeting we're going to behave. We do act on issues, and I'm going to be talking about some of our advocacy and some volunteers we need in just a second. So, volunteers. Well, one is not highlighted, but we have a tree. Thanks to Joy Fulkerson, who was quick on the dial to get us one of the trees. We have a tree at Candyland, and ours is in Founders Park. They've got so many trees this year, they've got them stretched throughout the downtown area. And so we need some volunteers the day after Thanksgiving to come around noon and help us decorate the tree. Laura Lose and Sarah Collins and Ramsey have been working really hard on designing a league-themed tree. And I think it's going to be great, but it's going to take people to get them up. It's going to take a tall ladder. It's going to take someone without vertigo. So if you fit any of these, we have a sign-up sheet over on the table, but you could also just email the league and say, I can be there. We think it'll take about an hour, maybe a little longer. That's what some of our EU friends who do this have told me. A second thing, there too, with advocacy, which I think is really, really important now, speaking up about what we believe. Now, one is the easy, low-hanging fruit that we've been doing for years, and a lot of you do it already. And that is that during the legislative session, on Mondays at 1, there is a Zoom meeting for anybody in the league who wants to participate, run by the state league, but we have our lobbyists there. And they talk about what's coming up for a vote soon, and which things would we have some impact. Sometimes things are lost causes. And so you don't want to waste your time and effort on that. You want to speak up where there's some room. And they even give you some templates you could use to email or call. So that is one, it's not a big time commitment. And it's really very, very interesting to see how things, it's kind of like watching the sausage being made. And so I highly encourage that. And if you just, again, email the league, we can give you the information where you can sign up. There's a sheet, be sure you do the Zoom one. The second is for in-person. If you're a person who would like to go to Nashville and talk to our legislators, or track them down when they're home and talk to them face to face, the league is offering a one-day training on how to do that. And they will even, because we're so far away, it's going to be in Nashville, they will pay for a night in a hotel and travel expenses for 2 people. And they were hoping to get one person who's kind of experienced, but another who is a novice at it, just to be training people in. Now, Ed Wolf does this, and he just told me, he said it's really pretty easy, especially if you go in pairs, to talk to him. And so he may be willing to be one of our people. So they're only going to pay for 2, but if you, there's no guarantee if a lot of people sign up, but if you're at all interested, talk to Ed afterwards.
Is this like the day on the Hill, or is this?
Well, this is training for that, but also for any time. Like Ed has gone just when there was a burning issue. And he called, made an appointment, showed up, talked to him, and in at least one case, got a very willing audience. Ed also knows who's worth taking the time to talk to and who's a brick wall. So that's good too.
When we do this, are we representing any issues, or it is your
Lead.
individuals?
You'll be there as the lead, and we have sides on the issues that impact on issues. Kind of tells what it is, and you would go down with your talking points. I mean, I think the idea is if there's a pair, you travel together to do it, and you'd be brushing up and planning how you're gonna say things. But also, maybe you can find them, in their office hours, although that's usually, I found, was 300 people in a big audience, and they weren't taking questions. So anyway, the registration deadline is December 13th. So if you let me know if you're interested and you're the one that we pick, we will contact you with the information. Yes, Joy.
The January 10th event, I went last year and found it extremely helpful because they invite all of the league's partner organizations who obviously are focused on various topics. So whether it's the Ed Trust or the Tennessee Equality Project or topics around disability and such. So it's very enlightening.
And all of these advocacy things are a really great way to see more about how government actually works. And remember, we're trying to maybe move the meter one person at a time, to be sure that democracy is served. Okay, on to housekeeping. The first thing I didn't put on the list because I didn't know she'd be here. Judy Wade, volunteering for Tri-Pride. We did a lottery of everybody who signed up by their time slots, and she won a Bluetooth JBL speaker. We decided we might do more door prize things. So, okay, so the other housekeeping things. We are taping. It will be posted to YouTube, so don't turn around and wave at the camera unless you are willing to have yourself sing. I don't know how many people come and watch these things, but theoretically. So the camera is behind you, so it's kind of easy. We're just getting the backs of your heads. Help yourself to refreshments. Anything that doesn't get eaten, they throw out. So take some home. They usually bring us some to-go boxes if we do. If you're new to this place, the restrooms are all the way to the back and turn right. Feel free to take home pens. We've got lots of the pens, and I just leave them places. Like if I'm signing stuff, I just leave it at different spots. There's some more materials at the registration table. We didn't bring vote buttons, and some of the stuff we're kind of retiring until the next election. They'll live in my basement. And we're happy to see you again. This is really a good turnout for a nice, probably the last nice sunny kind of one day for a long time. So, Rebecca, are you going to do the opening?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, good
It's all yours.
afternoon. I'm so glad that you made time to come and be here. Did you hear what I just said? So, I want to follow up Gwen's suggestion of participation in the advocacy committee work. It is a tremendous eye-opener to how our state legislature works. And so you'll have an opportunity to look at bills that we might choose to watch because of how they jive with our national leagues and state leagues' policy priorities. And then you might find things that jive with your own personal priorities. So come on and participate. I think it'll be fun in a way. All right, so do I have any Trekkies in here? 1, 2, Star Trekkies. Okay, so our quote today comes from Trekkie actor George Takei. He is obviously an actor, and he's an activist and public figure. You may recall that Takei and his family, both his American family, were here in his birthplace, as well as his family back in Japan. Well, you know that story. George was held captive by his home country here in the United States during the war. Anyway, so he's kind of a fan of democracy, and he said, my father once told me that American democracy is a people's democracy at heart, and that therefore it can be as great as the American people or as fallible. It depends on all of us. But our system is more fragile than we know, and I think we're getting a taste of that. That's my words. To sustain it, we must always cherish the ideals on which it was founded, remain vigilant against the dark forces that threaten it, and actively engage in the process of making it work. And I want to stress the actively part. We can stand by and throw tomatoes or bad words or whatever, but we also need to exercise our citizenship and act, okay? So this is our time, and I encourage you to get involved however you can. Thank you.
All right, I'll add my own welcome. Today we're going to first take a look back at what the League here has been doing to empower voters, and then take a look at the very recent past, reflecting on the elections, again with a focus on how things went here locally, and then a look forward to the spring. We'd like your ideas to help guide our programming for the spring for these sorts of public meetings. So here are the many things that we've been doing as a league in the last, well, maybe even 18 months in a run-up to this 2024 presidential election cycle. And I'm going to take a moment to look at each of these. First of all, we've had a series of public meetings. Going back to the fall of 2023, Kathy Benedetto and Ramsey Gowan put together a whole suite of meetings around the idea of having conversations in polarized times, and touched on topics like information and disinformation, as well as some ways to engage people whose beliefs might be quite different from our own. In the spring, we put together a series of meetings on why vote, what's going to be on your ballot, and how might you get yourself and others out to vote. Over the summer and into the fall, we've had meetings looking back at those March and August elections, this electoral cycle, as well as Zoom on the Electoral College at the national presidential level. We've done a lot of tabling and presentations, and this is relatively new for us. With help of Bob Warner, we marched in 3 parades on 4th of July, but besides sort of passing out candy and buttons, we didn't really engage too much at the profile, but we had tables at the Blue Plum Festival, the Umoja Festival, the Tri-Pride Festival, as well as a table at Watauga Brewing during their Oktoberfest celebration. We had a session at the Johnson City Library in which Becky and Sharon and Allison and Sarah talked with young people and their parents. We've also made contact with a couple of college campuses, Laura Los and our Administrator of Elections, Dana Jones, made a presentation to the Panhellenic Council at ETSU, and Candace and Sharon were also making presentations at King University, and then I think Sharon.
Maybe King University and Candace and Sharon.
Oh, okay. And I also apologize in advance to, if I fail to mention, some of the leaders, but, and then all of the helpers as well, for these events. I'm really sensing that we are scaling up with some new activities that we haven't engaged in before, and I'm really pleased and proud of that. So thank you personally to all of you who've helped us reach out and engage the public in these ways. We also have had a series of candidate and issue forums. Very recently, in October, we had forums for the Johnson City School Board candidates and the Johnson City Commission candidates. And special thanks to Joy and to Ramsey for organizing that. Over the summer, we had a forum on the series of Johnson City Charter amendments that were on the ballot in August 1st. And our partners in these forums have been WJHL, the Chamber of Commerce, and then the site, Science Hill High School for the October and Langston Center for the July forums. Vote for 1-1 is another online platform providing candidate information, so we know sort of who and what is on your ballot. Washington County, we did this in August and again in the run-up to the November election. In August, 56% of the candidates on the ballot for Washington County responded to our invitation, and it went up to 84% in November. We just received usage from the national pass through the state where I don't know if they're using zip code or IP address, but somehow they assigned Johnson City users, there were 1,853 of them in the period of January 1st to November 5th. Those may not be unique visitors, I'm not sure exactly, but it's for our first outing, that's impressive to me. Sullivan County, we did again in August and in November. The response rate in August was 41%. It dropped to 18% in November. I can only speculate. It might be that most of the primary elections in August drew interest, and then they sort of had decided unopposed or whatever in November. Kingsport users and Bristol users, the same number. So again, it may be that's one set of people. Yeah, not sure about that. But thanks, special thanks to Sarah Collins, who's done that. I've sort of asked how to do it, and she's done it. It's easier for her to just do it and explain it to me. So we actually did reach out to candidates in Unicoi County before November, but it was right before the hurricane hit, and we just, gave up. Carter County, I asked for the list of candidates as well. Different counties ask candidates to provide different information, and the best for our purposes is they ask for an email address. Second best is a telephone number. Carter County, the state minimum is your home address, and so we just didn't have time or resources to mail invitations to all of the Carter County candidates. But in the future, we hope to expand the vote 411 in the next election cycle. Poll watchers and poll workers, another way that we've tried to empower voters. Washington County, we had 3 to 5 watchers on election day in August and again in November. and several members who worked in August and November. In Sullivan County, we also have had some of the members who have been working the polls in August and November. So hold up your hand if you work the polls. Okay, great. And watchers? Okay. So this is something again that I hope we can ramp up in the future in the 2026 election cycle. We've also had a series of lunches with the league that go way back, but this fall in an attempt to kind of celebrate the concept of civic holidays, which is a national organizing technique to raise awareness about the different facets of the election cycle. We celebrated National Voter Registration Day in Kingsport, Voter Education Week in Johnson City, and Vote Early Day again in Kingsport, and finally Election Hero Day in Johnson City. So we've been sampling some of the restaurants in the counties from which most of our members come going back and forth. Okay. The second part of the program then is to kind of do a brief reflection on the election. And I just grouped some comments into three. First of all, looking at turnout here. Secondly, how voters voted. Did they do it absentee, early, or on election day? And then some familiar patterns in the outcomes of the election. So first, comparing the presidential year turnouts. This is, just half of the counties that we focus on in the League of Northeast Tennessee. These are the ones that had posted the unofficial results, but final results that they sent to the Secretary of State. Some of these counties still have yet to, their election commissions have yet to meet and officially certify that, but that is simply, as they say, a magisterial operation. They simply sign the papers for the election in their county. So Johnson County in 2016 was at 59%, in 2020 72%, and then down a little bit in 2024. That pattern, as you can see, is pretty much across the four counties here. So 2020, the plague year, the pandemic year, people made a special effort to get out to vote, or the restrictions or excuses that were accepted for absentee voting also were loosened by the state. And so the net result was that we had a better turnout, or as good a turnout in the case of Sullivan County in that year as the year prior or the year after. How did people vote this time around? In the different counties, the same pattern. Basically, a small percentage did mail-in absentee ballots, the bulk, and it surprised, I think, almost every election commission. That I go around to a bunch of election commissions, including some that aren't represented here, but everybody expected a big turnout, but they didn't, and there has been a trend for more and more early voting in Tennessee in recent election cycles. But wow, I was standing in line for an hour in Freedom Hall for early voting, and then I was a watcher in Freedom Hall, and it was like, there were minutes and minutes where there was no one in line during election day. So that pattern was pretty consistent across these counties. Some other patterns that we see. Many of the races are uncontested, and so you don't really have a choice except to vote or not to vote. Few contests are even close, although to motivate people to believe that their vote can matter individually, I always go through the election results looking for close contests. In August, the example that I found was in Sullivan County, a similar one where there are multiple seats and even more candidates. And the difference between last place and almost made it come down to, in some cases, a dozen votes or less. Certainly less than 1% of the total votes. So in the case of the Johnson City Commissioner, the third commissioner, it's like, I don't know, 12 votes. I'm not sure what the official margin will be, but it was very close. Also in Unicoi, they were electing 2 aldermen, and the difference between second place and third place was less than a dozen votes. I was at the Unicoi Commission meeting this past week and asked the administrator if there was a call for a recount, and there has not been. So, the major parties are powerful, as you might guess. When I look at the results of going from the top of the ballot to the bottom, for example, it's similar percentages from county to county. So in Washington County, the Republicans were high 60% to low 70%, and that was true for president, for Senate, for House of Representatives, for state reps, in some cases state senators. So as you go down, that fraction remains the same. It's driven kind of by the party. In Sullivan County, it's low to mid 70s, Republicans to Democrats as you go down. And then in the more rural counties, Johnson and Unicoi, it's 80% Republicans. So split voting is very rare. That's another way to make this statement. Voting for the person as opposed to the party is relatively rare. Also quite rare is that independents win. We have had in this cycle some candidates who ran as independents and did not win. Personally, I found it very revealing in the Johnson City School Board Forum that one of the candidates said, I have tried running for this board as an independent, and I am now running as a member of the party, just because you got more support behind you. So that pattern is nothing new, but this election is nothing new in that regard. Okay, the third and final part of the presentation is to talk about some ideas what you would like us to address collectively in our series of spring meetings. I've drawn, and there are lots of ideas, so I've drawn some of these from the state of Tennessee's legislative priorities, which we're going to, with advocacy, revisit very soon in the spring. The U.S. has impact on issues that has lots of positions developed over decades for the state, for the National League, and then some other topics that are banging around in my head and come from a variety of sources. And we will invite you to, after I've briefly explained some of these issues, invite you to fill out a ballot and vote for 5, since we have 5 public meetings in the spring, that most interest you, and then on the back of the ballot, add a write-in of another idea that's not on our list that you think would be interesting. So, educational vouchers. Apparently, the governor has already arranged for Senate Bill 1 and House Bill 1 in the next session to be a voucher. And it's got a few different details. He's been consistently proponent of this, and much to his frustration, I guess, in the last round, the Republicans couldn't agree between the House and the Senate on the broad strokes of a voucher bill. Abortion continues to be an issue of interest and concern. We have in Tennessee one of the strictest bans, and in the last legislative session, there was a law now has subsequently been challenged in court, trying to criminalize adults who would provide information or enable minors to travel out of state to receive that medical procedure. Gun safety continues to be an issue, and the restoration of voter rights is for people who have been convicted of a felony and have served their time. Tennessee has one of the most difficult routes for such individuals to travel in order to have their voter rights restored. The Tennessee Lookout reported a couple months ago that Representative Bud Halsey over in Sullivan County was talking about proposing a bill that would make it a little bit easier to restore voter rights to such individuals. At the national level, one of the longtime issues of concern to the league is the role of money in politics. And another one is how we select our president. Electoral college is the way we do it now. There are proposals that suggest there would be other ways of doing that. Yeah, this is nonpartisan, I think. Yesterday I looked, and the count on the popular vote was 50.1%, and Ramsey told me she read something that it's now below 50%. So although the president-elect has won the Electoral College and the popular vote, he did not receive a majority. We're down to a plurality now of the popular votes. What are some alternatives to that plurality voting? Whoever gets the most votes wins. One of them that I've looked into a bit is ranked choice voting, where third-party votes are not necessarily spoiler votes that have to come out of the hide of one or the other of the major party candidates. You can express preferences. There are some issues with that. That's been proposed in Memphis a couple years back, and the state promptly ruled it unconstitutional in Indiana. And the main argument I've read is that it's confusing to voters. And it is.
For goodness
Well,
sakes.
if it was a new system, changes would be required in the software, in our machines, and so on and so forth. But it has been implemented successfully in municipalities and some states already in the recent past. Alaska, in some ways looking at California and Washington State, where they have the top four, or sort of primary and then the top four, are our ways, are our alternatives to our historical plurality voting electoral system. Public participation in government decision making might, it includes a bunch of things, but a lot of it is transparency, open records, time for public comment, distributing agenda in advance of any public meeting so that the citizens, who will every 4 years or 2 years be voters, know what's going on among their elected representatives as the government is making decisions. And then other ideas. So at this point, why don't we distribute ballots? And they've got these 12 ideas on them. I've got, okay, 4 more. Term limits have been talked about. I noticed that one of the candidates said there are 4 term limits in the most recent campaign in their literature. Independent candidates and voters are a topic that we don't talk about much, we may not know about much. One recent poll said that 43% of Americans now consider themselves to be independents. That's more than consider themselves to be Democrats or Republicans. It's a majority of voters, according to that survey.
It's a commentary on the two-party system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Civics education is another thing. What do our citizens and young people understand about democracy, about our system? And then lastly, news reporting on local and state government. This might sort of be related to the Observer Corps, where citizens go out and try to cover the meetings that may not be covered by news media. And then on the back of the ballot, I invite you to fill out another idea that I didn't mention here that you think you'd be interested in learning more about. Okay, so please vote for 5. We've got 5 meetings. Just check out or circle or whatever, and then take a moment to write another idea that you might have on the back for a meeting topic for the spring. No ranking, just a check, circle.
In your study of the issues that are important, is expanded Medicaid on the
No, that's definitely another item that's on the state's advocacy list. Another category they have is the environment. So there's lots of important ideas, and I invite you to add that on the map if that's something that is of interest to you. So I will, as you're finishing up, these are the dates of our spring meetings. The last one in June is going to be our annual meeting, but the first 5 are where we hope to, with your help through these ballots, develop some interesting programs for us to explore. And so, yeah, if you've completed the ballots, people come by and pick them up. And I think that is all that we have today. I know that people are probably interested after the presentation concludes in just socializing and talking about recent events.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for coming. I do hope we will see you. We have reserved these dates here at Food City because consistency means we know where to come, and they have parking.